Okay, good to go. All right then. So most importantly, thank you so much, all of you, for jumping on tonight. Really appreciate everyone's attendance and being willing to want to improve as a coach and being part of our coach development program. So I'm very grateful to all of you for jumping on. I'm very excited to have all of you on here. Just to go over what today's session will be for you guys. It will be a review of the coach development night we had last week on Wednesday, where the coaches came out and we looked at how to implement a training session with regards to the session design and then teaching within it. And then what we're going to do after that is do a little exercise together, which is based off the frequently asked questions that I've previously gotten from you guys as coaches or from other people that have sent emails in about concerns that they have in their teams. And it was also taken from the feedback from the coaches from last Wednesday. So here's how I'd like us to start. With relation to the session on Wednesday that we had, does anybody want to, and feel free to do this, unmute yourself and talk about things that they found useful or questions that they had or things that weren't useful to them at all. So if you want to, unmute yourself and just, have a chat about what you found was conducive to you from Wednesday.
This is Craig. Sorry, my camera isn't working.
No, you're fine. No worries.
Yeah, I think when I first started the practices, I was using I started using kind of like the 2v1 and I think the 2v2 and then I don't know, for some reason I ended up getting away from it. So last week was a good reminder of like kind of coming back to that again, and just kind of using the using the field setup in a way that, and I don't change the field setup, but I do try to do different things. So that was kind of just a good reminder to kind of, how to use the field setup in different ways. So you're not sort of wasting time to,
Do you mind me asking, Craig, why you did go away from it? Was there a specific reason, or it was just a case of you wanted to, do something different?
No, I think it was, I don't have a good reason. Probably just time, to kind of, and maybe I can because I was doing the things that I was doing the drills that were in there originally. And I think one of the girls said like, are we doing this again? And so I don't think it was just like maybe the repetition that maybe they were getting bored with. And so I was worried about kind of like, oh, is this not becoming fun anymore? And is it becoming too repetitive? And so I was trying to maybe introduce some, some variety.
Good feedback. Yeah, I like that. Good feedback in terms of, is it different, but can it be the same thing? So even if it is 2v1 all the time, can we change what the 2v1 looks like? So if it's goals, main goals, two end goals, that's good feedback in terms of making the activity slightly different. So you still, achieve the objective, but in terms of what you're trying to, teach, i.e. 2v1 attacking or defending, you can get that across. But good feedback. Thank you, Craig. Okay, anyone else in terms of the session from Wednesday, the feedback that anyone has?
I often have trouble with the final game. I really liked how you set one team up so that they had an advantage of 2 goals before it all started, and then reverse that. I thought that was an interesting way to play it.
Yeah,
I'd never considered that before.
So that is called that would be situational coaching. So creating a situation and then without even telling the players what they have to do, you create an environment where they have to react to what that is. So a good one, another good example of that as well is being able to create an exercise where without having to tell the players what to do, the exercise starts to become innate to them. So it's a natural thing for them. So the example that we used with that at the beginning of the session was using the rondo, right? The 5v1. We talked about using a metaphor within it. And if our players aren't very good at passing, a rondo is good for developing that execution of passing and receiving. So from there, we would then have to look at, well, if 5v1, is too easy, then how do we change the activity to be able to make passing and receiving more difficult? Another one would be if our players aren't necessarily good at driving or dribbling, 1v1 exercises where they have to drive or dribble across an end zone, and you're not, again, telling them, hey, you have to drive or dribble like this, but you create an environment where they constantly have to be able to drive and dribble. So that there would be situational coaching there. So it's a good example that you bring up, Bill, in terms of using something within the session to innately bring out of the players. Craig, yes, sir.
Just real quick on that sort of 1v1, because again, I have kind of first-time players, so again, it's kind of really starting at a very elementary level.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like trying to balance that idea of keeping everybody occupied. So it's like 1v1, and then if I only have 2 sort of fields set up, then you have a lot of players. I have 14 girls. So then there's a lot of players just waiting in line, kind of. And so I always struggle with kind of like, okay, how do I keep everybody engaged versus, people just getting bored?
So a good one for that, Craig, is making a really large 1v1 tournament. So if you have, how many players do you have at your practice? Usually 14. Well, you could make 7 really large 1v1 lanes or channels. And that way you can make a little tournament out of it. So every time they get across the other person's end line, they could get a goal. And then that way you develop them within 1v1. It's fun, it's exciting, it's a competition. And again, going back to creating an exercise where they naturally just get better by doing it more often with driving or dribbling, like we just mentioned there. That's a good example to be able to improve their ability to drive and dribble. Now, you do raise a good point, though. If they're very young or they're very inexperienced, a way of making it more successful for them so that there's not complete or abject failure in there would be making the channels or the spaces big, like really, really big. And then that way there is opportunity at least to have a chance of getting across the end zone. If you made it like 5 by 10, it's probably going to be too small. But obviously making the space bigger, there is more space, therefore more time for the players to make decisions. And obviously lower level players, they take more time to make decisions. So creating more space for them is important. But yeah, great question. And thank you, Craig. And anyone else, guys, in terms of the review of Wednesday before we move on, or any other questions that we have? If not, we can move forwards. Okay. I'm just going to share my screen, and then we are going to get going. Okay, so MSI FAQ and review night. So I have 4 major questions or concerns here from the review that you guys gave me, or the feedback that we were given on Wednesday, like we mentioned. So poor attention span, spacing, bunching, and then can't defend. So these were the 4 main areas. So what I'd like us to do tonight is to define the problem, identify why the problem is occurring, and then find solutions to the problem. So here's what I'd like us to do. Just unmute yourselves or put in the chat, defining the problems to start with poor attention span. So what do we mean by this? So define what a poor attention span is. And unmute yourself. Take yourself off mute or put in the chat.
Staring into space.
Staring into space. Okay. So define it. What would that be? So staring into space. Any other ways of describing this?
Not making eye contact with the coach.
Right. I'm actually going to do this.
Messing around with other players, teammates.
Yeah. Not engaged.
Start playing with their friends, just like as in a play date or something.
What was that again? Sorry, say again.
Sometimes I notice they start playing with their friends, just like even on the field, instead of focusing on the board, they just start playing and talking as if they are like we are at a playground or like a play date.
So some really good examples there. Okay. So here's what I'm going to ask you guys. So define the problem. What is the problem specifically? Someone else has put something in there as well. So chatting with each other. Thank you, Brian. That's good. So what is this problem? How would we accurately define it? So we have lots of descriptions here. Poor attention span, not making eye contact, not engaged, messing around with each other, teammates, playing with friends and talking. But what specifically is the problem here? And why is it a problem? Seems like
they're not like this weekend when my one fullback, she just was watching the other game that was going on next to her. So she wasn't even playing the game. Yes. So it's kind of like, it's difficult. It wasn't, she just wasn't playing the game, and she wasn't paying attention to play the role that she was assigned to play.
Yeah. So if there's no attention, limited chance to allow practice to be successful. And I think we would all be in agreement that it's difficult to develop / improve players. Fair enough, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Now, here begs the question. Why is it a problem? So why is the problem occurring? Either mute yourself or put in the chat. Why do you think these problems are occurring?
From our vantage point, it feels like the time of day after a long day at school. Then it comes
time of day, yeah. So long day at school.
Their ability to focus and to not be distracted is limited.
Yep. So time of day, long day at school, and that hits the nail on the head as well, right? So long day at school. What have they not been able to do, even though they're at school?
Run around.
Yeah.
Relax and have fun.
Yeah, relax, have fun. Yeah, perfect. So time of day, long day at school. No chance to essentially have fun, which is kind of sad when we say this about going to school. No chance to have fun. Okay, so it's really important. What should we take into mind then with your training session as the coach and being on this team? What is the priority for these players?
Be with their buds.
Having fun.
Yeah, exactly. So having fun, being with their buds, being there to enjoy themselves and have fun, which is why they obviously signed up for for this team that you guys are coaching. So I think this is important as well. It's not simple to say it, but it is. They are children, and we have to remember this. So they are kids. Remember the needs of the kids. The reason that I say this is that play is really, really important for children. And for kids to be able to play, it is just as important to them as eating and sleeping and having a healthy environment. You know, without going too much down into the road of science, all mammals need to play, including humans, to learn, you know, and to interact and learn how to interact. So I would say just maybe flip the perspective sometimes of this being a problem, that they don't pay attention, because they are kids and they need to be able to interact and play with each other. However, this is why we have solutions to the problem. Okay, so Craig, you bring up a really good point, right? Kids literally looking at the other field when the game is going on. Okay, it's quote unquote the worst thing as a coach. Your players are not interacting with anyone apart from the one thing that they shouldn't be doing. So what would you say as coaches, and I leave this as an open question again for everyone to chime in with, is what are solutions to these problems? Okay, so we've looked at the reason why the problems occur: in time of day, long day at school, no chance to have fun. They are kids, so remember the needs of what they are like. But, you know, we want at the same time to help develop them and make them better. How can we, with these external factors that we're dealing with, you know, produce an environment or create opportunity for the kids to be successful? So again, unmute yourselves, put it in the chat. What are some of the solutions to this?
This is Peter. Sorry, I've been coming in and out.
No worries, Pete. All good.
One of the solutions is to give them the appropriate target. You know, what is the small goal, the small challenge that you can present them with? Maybe it's to mark a man, why you would mark that man. Just give them the little process goal, something that they could be successful at, which will shift them from the target, the inappropriate target, to the appropriate target.
Yep, great answer. Okay, so let's use Peter's example there. So if we are, let's say we'll use let's say a first grade topic for this. If we're attacking and we're attacking within 1v1 or 2v1, what is the objective of attacking within 1v1 and 2v1? Open question, guys, as well.
The objective is to get past the defender.
Okay, so that's part of it. But if we're playing a game of 1v1 or 2v1 with a goal, what is the ultimate objective?
Score,
right? So get past the defender to score. So it's good that Peter brought that up in terms of having an objective and shifting the focus to the objective. But it's also really important for us to have the objective of truly what we want to get from the players. So having a specific objective for the team, players, and I'm going to put and session as well. Okay, so having a specific objective or an objective is important. Is it more important than how the session is set up and the design of the session?
I think that you have to have a design in order to move out, or else you're just ad-libbing.
So the objective is really important because that's how you're going to design the session. But let's use it. We'll use a metaphor. So if we have Craig's practice, right, and there's 14 kids there, and we get there, and his kids are very inexperienced, and we play 7v7. Are the kids going to be engaged?
Some only.
Some only. Okay, so that's part of the problem. Only some. So I'm saying, come on, Coach Craig, let's play 7v7. What would you do instead of what I'm suggesting, Craig?
I can break it down smaller
Break it down. Yeah.
bits.
And why would that be important?
Well, to give everybody an opportunity to engage.
Yeah. So opportunity to engage. So, you know, if we have 14 players there, you know, maybe one field is 3v3, you know, 6 on one side. Maybe another one is 4v4. I would even recommend going lower than that though. So maybe it's 3v3 and 2v2 and 2v2. However you guys want to work it out, I would say smaller numbers are better because the more players that you have with the younger ages, this is a specific example to the youngest kids, you know, there is more to focus on. If there are less players within 2v2, 3v3, 4v4, which is why we play that, there is more opportunity for engagement to occur. So I'm just going to put underneath here, design of the session to engage everyone. Okay. Any other solutions there, guys, that you would have for engagement?
Keep the messaging short. No lectures.
Okay, good. So why is that important?
If they hear you rambling on, they're just going to stare at you.
Okay, so I'm going to put this in here. We call this contact time or ball rolling. Anyone want to have a guess what that is? Contact time or ball rolling?
Either they're talking to you or they're playing soccer.
Yeah, okay. So it's not to say that as coaches, you can't coach or you can't stop it and coach. But for us to get the most out of the training session, we want the ball to be rolling and the players to have contact time with the session. I would recommend that you try and have an 80-20 or 70-30 approach of ball rolling to you guys talking and coaching. And the reason this is so important is that the longer that you talk and the longer that you coach, especially with the younger ages, there will be less engagement and less focus with what you're saying based off all these external factors we talked about, with them being at school, have someone talking to them all day long. We want to make sure that the message is short and sweet, so the objective is put across to the team, the players, and the session with what is being taught, and then they can get into what the activity is or get into play. So that's why contact time and ball rolling, put an equal sign, naturally will improve engagement of the players. 80-20, 70-30. Perfect. Good stuff, guys. Well done. Good start. Okay, spacing. So what do we talk about when we're talking about spacing? What does this mean?
Spread out.
Spread out. Okay. So spacing. I put not being spread out. Any other ways to describe it?
Stop bunching.
Yeah, bunching. There you go.
Stop bunching. Perfect. All right, that's good, guys. Okay, so what do we mean by this? So let's define this problem. What does this mean?
It means they all follow the ball.
Yeah, good. Here's what I'm going to do. Whoever said that, thank you for that. That's good. I'm going to put it up here. You'll see why. They all follow the ball. They all follow the ball, but why? Why is that?
They want to play and get involved and kick.
Yep. Good. So that would be why, though. Identify why. The what, though? What is the problem? So I understand that spacing, not being spread out, stop bunching, they all follow the ball. We can see that. But why is that a problem?
I think the anticipation, like to say like, okay, maybe I should, like, positioning, understanding, like, okay, I need to be here in case whoever get the ball first could pass it to me, and I where the best position they should be at to get the ball. So just I think I'm more like a team, but at the same time understanding a little bit more position.
So good. Okay. So understanding where you are supposed to be when we have the ball. So what do we call this? We have the ball. So for us to be, let's say, spread out and to create more space, what must we create as a team?
I see two things. One is understanding positioning, and two is that it's easier to have the ball do the work for you.
Okay, agreed. But as a team, to be spread out, what must we create?
A formation.
Formation. Okay. So all the players follow the ball when we have the ball but don't have a shape or a formation. So with the ball, we want to create space within the formation. So I'm going to put in here, and this is to define it. The problem is no structure with the ball. Agreed? Anyone have any thoughts or questions about that?
I think it's no structure without the ball also, because they're all bunched.
Correct.
And then when they lose the ball, same issue.
No structure with or without. Okay. So why is this problem occurring? Anyone have a go?
It's selfish play. I don't mean that in, I'm hoarding things to myself, but their mind is, somebody said it before, I want the ball, I'm going to go get the ball.
Yeah. So selfish play, I would say the age of some of the kids that you're working with is centered around them. Okay. So where they're currently at. So the old psychological term of concrete operational, that's what kids are at this stage. It's based off Piaget's cognitive development model. But at these ages, the really young ages, the world is in relation to the kids. So that is why literally the problem could occur, but it doesn't mean that we can't solve it as a group or as a team. So without keeping asking questions, when we talk about attacking as an example of spacing and not being spread out, to create space, we have to have depth and have width. And this goes back to the objective with the ball. We have to have a structure and a shape. And then without it, we have to have a structure and a shape. Now, if we play 4v4, what is the shape going to be or the structure going to be?
Square.
Should be a diamond.
Square or a diamond. It's fine. Either one. There is a structure. Okay. Now, within your square or within your diamond, you can create space. Now, what is the difference between creating a diamond and creating a square?
Location of the players.
Yeah. And why might a diamond be better than a square?
Depth and width.
Yep. So you create depth and you create width naturally in your diamond. Within a square, you create width, but what might you struggle creating when you have the ball?
Depth.
Depth. Okay, we'll very quickly just draw this in here as an example. Diamonds, there are 4 points. The 2 on the sides are the width. The one at the top is depth. The one at the bottom is depth. If you create a square, very simply, your 4 points that you've created here are on the outside. So you have created width. Technically, you have created depth, but there is no central point to play through. Someone has put a question in. All right. Craig, yes, sir.
Yeah. So when you're Benji, when you're coaching, like, first time players, how do you begin to coach this concept? Like,
so yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go.
No, that's my question.
So how would you coach it? We'll go back to our little example here. Okay, so we'll use a diamond. Okay. So on my screen here, we have the diamond. Okay. When we have the ball, we must create a diamond to start with in our shape. So here is where I would say you can start creating a structure. So let's do this. That'd be easy if we do it like this. Who are some of the players on your team, Craig? Names, just names, quickly. I mean, we can make it up, but you could have Jimmy. Jimmy's at the top of the diamond. Oops. The bottom, you can have Dave. Right hand side, you can have Sarah. Left hand side, you could have Jess. Okay, guys, are you guys following me with this so far?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so when we have the ball, which 2 players give us width?
Jess and Sarah.
Jess and Sarah. So we have the ball. Jess and Sarah must give us width. Who gives us depth?
Jimmy
and Dave.
Jimmy and Dave. Who supports over the ball and who can support under the ball?
Jimmy, Dave.
Jimmy and Dave. So Jimmy supports over, Dave supports under. Okay. So we've created depth, we've created width. We've just lost the ball. What do we have to do now as a team?
Get back.
Okay. Where do we get back to?
Defend. I mean, it depends on how you. For me, you come to the middle. You try to keep them to the outside, so your shape turns into, maybe it goes from a diamond to more of a condensed diamond. I don't know how you would describe it.
Well, you said it, Matthew, the first thing you said, right? So this is why having clear language is important. So when we have the ball, we want to create depth, we want to create width, because that creates more space. What was the first thing that you said, Matthew? You said take away what?
Take away the middle.
Yep, correct. Okay, so how do we take away the middle?
Your shape and structure is you bring the players into the middle in terms of consolidating your shape.
Yep. So which players would you move first to take away the middle first?
Bring my forward back, and I'd come back with the width, the 2 outside players.
Okay. So how would you coach it then, Matthew? What would you say? Who would you coach and what would you coach?
I'd ask Jimmy to drop back.
Yeah. Jimmy drop back. but you still have a problem with Jess and Sarah.
I asked them to also drop back and come in, squeeze in, but I don't
Okay,
know. That's complicated.
It is, but it isn't. There's good, no, great effort. You asked Jess and Sarah to give you width, yes?
Yeah.
What would you ask Jess and Sarah to take away once we don't have the ball?
The middle.
Okay, good. Yeah. So Jess and Sarah take away the space in the middle. So you gave us width. Now we want you to take away depth. Jimmy, you gave us depth, but now we want you to close what? So Jess and Sarah, they have taken away the depth by coming inside. What can Jimmy and Dave do to make it more difficult for the other team?
I mean, they can play wide.
Yeah. So that, but look, there's still space here, right? So
Yeah.
Jess and Sarah, they've gone from the wide space into the middle space. Jimmy and Dave, there's still space in between Jess and Sarah. So what could you ask them to do?
I mean, Jimmy to drop down further.
Yeah. So Jimmy, drop further down, or what's a better word than drop?
Come back.
Come back, yeah, or close. Close the space between Jess and Sarah. What can Dave do?
Same. Close the space.
Space, yeah. Okay. So when we're defending, take away depth and take away width. So Jess and Sarah come inside, take away the space. Jimmy and Dave close the space between Jess and Sarah. Okay, now we've transitioned to attack. We've won the ball back. What does Jess and Sarah have to give us?
Width.
Width. What does Jimmy have to now give us?
Depth. Push
Depth.
up.
Yeah, and we've created space again. Any thoughts or questions on this, guys?
Are you doing a 1-2-1-2 formation if you're playing 7-on-7 in a game and you have a goalie, and so your 6 players are in a 1-2-1-2 format? What you say?
Would you like to address that, Hanif? We can do that as well. So we can do exactly the same thing. We can go over that quickly. Okay. So Jimmy is our 9. Sarah can be our 7. Jess can be our 11. Dave can be our 10. At the bottom, because if we're playing 7v7, play with 2-3-1. James here. Okay. Hey, can everyone see the shape? We're going to play 2-3-1. Lily is the 4. So this is the number system. Okay. That we're going to play with. Jimmy is the 9, Jess is the 11, so the wide left player. Dave is the central 10. Sarah is the 7. Jimmy is the 9. James 5. Lily 4. Okay. Any questions on this, guys? Yes, Brian. What do the numbers mean? So this is the numbers system for US soccer. Okay. So 11 is a wide left player. 7 is a wide right player. 10 is a central attacking player. 9 is the forward. 5 is the left central defender. 4 is the right central defender. Any other questions on the numbers? Okay. Okay. James has the ball here. Who gives us depth and who gives us width? Questions open to anyone.
Dave and Jimmy give you depth.
Correct. Okay. Dave and Jimmy give us depth. Who gives us width?
Jess and Sarah.
Okay. So Sarah gives us width here, and Jess gives us width here. Do we see any problems with this?
Dave is impeding the depth to Jimmy.
Yeah. Okay. So what does Jimmy do?
Needs to move into more open space.
Open space over here.
No, the other way.
Okay. So the ball is on the left. Oops, sorry, guys. Ball is on the left side. So Jimmy has to slide across to where the ball is on the left side. So he's still giving us depth, but he's giving us depth on the left side of the field. Now, Dave can hold the space in the middle because he's a central player. Jess is giving us width here. So what is the problem with Sarah giving us width on the other side of the field? Anyone want to have a go at that? What's the problem with Sarah being on the other side of the field?
The ball would probably have to go through too many opposing players to get to her. So she needs to come in a little bit closer.
Okay. What do we prefer? Would we prefer width over depth or depth over width?
Depth.
Why depth?
So I help you get closer to the goal.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so how can Sarah be more useful for us to get closer to the goal? Bearing in mind where the ball is here on the left side with James.
She can come towards the middle.
Yep, come towards the middle. Yep. So Sarah can come towards the middle, which then allows Dave to do what?
Go to the left.
Yep, support inside. Okay. Now, do we have more players giving us depth on the left side? Because Sarah has come in now. So ask the question again. Sarah's come inside. Why is Dave able to play here now?
You have your diamond.
Oh, we made a diamond. Yeah, good. So we've created a diamond. So we have more support around the ball. So there's more support around the ball. We have more depth to go forward on this side. Okay. James now passes the ball to Lily. Okay. Ball's traveled to Lily. What does Sarah now have to give us?
Width.
Okay. Where will Jimmy go?
To the right.
To the right to support the ball. What will Dave do?
To the right.
Support inside to the right. And what will Sarah do? So what will Jess do?
Also to the right.
So to the right. Okay, so we've still created depth, we still created width, but very simply, we have identified roles for our players with the ball. Okay, now we've lost the ball. Okay, the ball's on the left side over here. What's going to happen?
Everyone moves to the left.
Everyone runs to the left, or let's be more specific.
Jess is closest.
So think about, yeah, Jess is closest. So think about our reference though. With the ball, create depth and width. Without it, what do we have to do?
Close it.
Take away depth and width. Yep. So we've taken away depth and width. How do we do that?
Everybody needs to go up in reference to the direction of the page.
So let's simplify it. Again, remember, we're talking to these kids. We need to take away depth and width. So which players take away depth and which players take away width?
Lily and James take away depth.
Yeah. Who else can take away depth?
Jimmy.
Jimmy, yeah. So where's Jimmy going to take away depth?
He's going to come towards Jess and Dave.
Yeah, good. What's Dave going to do?
Move a little left and towards James.
Yeah, so go a little left or go toward and go towards James. So what we're coaching that on the sideline. What's one word? We used it before that we can use to be more specific and to be clear with our action language. Go a little inside. It's not very simple, right? What's the word that we use? Begins with a C.
Close.
Close space.
Close the space. Dave, close the space between James and Lily. Where, coach? Where do I close the space? I'm pretending to be Dave. Where do I close the space, coach? What part of the field?
Middle of the field.
Middle, yeah. So Dave, close the space in the middle of the field, above James and Lily. Sarah says, Coach, where do I go? What do I do?
Close the space.
Where?
To the middle.
To the middle. Close the space to the middle. Do I close the space in the middle in line with Jimmy?
No.
With Jess.
Keep the shape. Keep the shape as much as you can.
Okay. Keep the shape. So I'll keep the shape out here.
To the middle.
So close the space to the middle. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So we've taken away depth. We've taken away width. What are we expecting from our players now in their decision making? So now we don't have the ball. What are we expecting from the players?
Try to take it away.
Okay, so we've taken it away. Decision making now. Are we going to stay like this?
Closest player to the ball.
Does what?
Press.
Okay, who's the closest player?
Jess appears to be.
Yeah, Jess. Okay, so Jess goes to press. What happens now?
Dave comes out behind Jess.
Very good, very good. What's the word?
Cover.
Yeah, Dave covers behind Jess. Does Sarah still stay here?
She can bring it a little tight.
What does that mean? Bring it a little tight.
Close the space.
Close the space between who?
The center between Lily and James and Dave.
Close the space between you and Dave, above James and Lily. What does Jimmy do?
Close the space between James and Sarah. I mean, not James. Dave.
Yeah,
Dave and
perfect.
Sarah.
There you go. Okay. Shift to the left. Craig, yes, sir.
Sorry. So, okay. So this is helpful in getting the sort of the vocabulary down and kind of pounding it in my head of keeping the vocabulary simple. But So again, dealing with sort of first time players, I'm also trying to think, okay, like how, what are the drills that are going to kind of help you kind of beat this into their heads as well?
Okay. So what is the best way of learning how to do something?
Playing it. Doing it.
Doing it.
Sorry.
When you play, so when you play in your small-sided games or your normal games, what can you do in each game to improve this?
Always use the same language.
Always use the same language, yeah. So use constant reference language to improve the meaning to the players, and you can then, you don't create chaos by using 10 different words for one word, and the players have a clear reference of then what to do with the ball and what to do without the ball, what the position is within the formation, and where that position is in relation to the formation. Now, a lot of people, and I'll be honest with you guys, would say, well, you know, you teach this to 7, 8, 9-year-olds, you know, is that too much? Are diamonds and triangles too much for 7, 8, and 9-year-olds? What do you guys think? Can 7, 8, and 9-year-olds count to 10?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. This is not, you know, this, again, not to be condescending or not to be rude. And I say this not towards you guys, but to those people that would ask those questions. I would say it's the responsibility of the coach to teach this to the players. And then from there, you can then create players who have a structure for them to be creative within. Because the other argument is, well, you take away creativity. You don't take away creativity at all. The metaphor for this would be when people learn to play a musical instrument. I have to be careful here because I don't want to use a cross reference within a completely different thing. But you learn chords, or you learn, you know, how to play scales. Is a clear reference within music. Now you can become more creative with playing a musical instrument as long as the reference is there. Now it's the same with playing football or playing soccer. If you have a clear reference and structure of what you're playing in, with the ball, without the ball, you can be more creative then when you have the ball. Or there is different scenarios when you don't have the ball. So it is a very, very clear structure, but there is creativity that then is allowed to be between the structure. We have unfortunately run out of time, guys. But before we go, any last thoughts or questions or passing comments, concerns with what we've gone over tonight? Yes, great. So, Salam, do you want to go first?
Okay, maybe. Okay, I'm going to take a lead time, Craig, if that's okay. I think one thing, even while we are coaches, our kids also are in the team, and the teams we coach. And one thing I realized is that we don't let them watch games too. So in a way, like we don't. I never really like. For example, this past weekend, there was a big game between Manchester, like Liverpool and Manchester United, or things like that. Like I never get to have them see it with me.
Yeah.
So sometimes or also take them to some games in DC area, which I'm planning to do this weekend. There is a girls' women's football match this weekend.
That's great. That's really good.
Yeah, so I think that seeing that would be very helpful. I think that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Absolutely. No, I think it's a great point you raised, Salan. Here's what I would say. Get yourself the emails of the parents, and then what you can do is you can send highlights on YouTube of these games as well. Because it's tough to catch the game sometimes. But what I would say is that you can send over the highlights, and literally of all the highlights of the top leagues around the world, they have extended highlights on YouTube. I mean, I'm a big kid when it comes to that. I'll watch all of them at the end of the weekend. So I would get those and send those to your players as well. But it's a really good point, Solan. So thank you. Craig, sorry. Yes, sir.
Yeah, sorry. No. So, with regards to sort of I know we get the positions, and I need to learn the number system that you just articulated. But instead of the number system, my default is, fullbacks, midfield, and forward. And so I guess one question is if I don't know, because I don't know if I'm coaching this wrong right now. And the question is okay, so with my fullbacks, in order to sort of also minimize, because my girls, because it's a big field for some of these girls to be running, and so they'll exhaust themselves. And so my fullbacks, what I try to do is have them not go past midfield, right? Just to sort of conserve energy, but then also sort of to be able to sort of defend, to be able to transition to defense. But the reality then is then they're not as engaged because they're not also, I guess moving up. But so I've been limiting them, so my forward, I say, don't go past midfield towards our goal, and so I don't know if that's a wrong thing to be coaching, I guess is my question. Given that if we're talking about, trying to form the shape and let the shape take its form, and if that shape moves around the field, then it is what it is.
I would always veer on the side of don't restrict behavior. I would say you should always try and reinforce the structure of what you want. It's never going to be exactly how it would be useful. But what I would say is that reinforcing width and depth, taking away depth and width, the positions within width and depth, and then where they need to be, you can always coach that. But don't restrict it, because if you restrict behavior, you take away the decisions. Now, I know that sounds slightly contradictory when you're saying they play in this position. That does not, the reason it might sound contradictory is because you're giving them a position to play in. That does not mean that they are restricted to where they will play, though. There will be times where they have to step inside. There'll be times where they have to drop and support. However, if you have a starting point and a structure, it's much easier to create creativity from there. So that would be my answer to you, Craig.
Thank you.
Awesome. Guys, I thoroughly enjoyed this tonight. It was really good. And so the feedback has, allowed it to be, this conversation that we have had with each other. So thank you. Does anyone have one last question or anything they want to touch on before we call it a night?
I put in the chat my opinions about Audi Field, which is highly expensive for watching a game, and everything costs. It's a lot of time to get there. University of Maryland men's soccer is top in the nation. Typically make it to the final 16 in the NCAA Division I. The big deal is $5 a kid, $10 an adult. Yeah, and you only have to drive to College Park, free parking.
Great shout. Thank you, Bill. That's awesome. I would recommend as well that, I mean, if you could get to watch DC United, by all means, please go. But yeah, I think as something that is affordable, University of Maryland's really good as well. We also have the Bobcats in the area as well, which is a local professional team. They play in the NISA League, so that may be something to consider also. So there you go.
Where do they play?
They play, I believe, at the Soccerplex. I think it's like $10 as well to get in. I think something along those lines. But yeah. But guys, thank you. This was great. Really appreciate everyone's time and the conversations that we've had. I hope it's useful, and I hope that everyone got something from tonight. But I really enjoy working with all of you and appreciate your time to jump on here to get better. So thank you so much. And we will see you next week, which I believe is our last one for the season. So thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Benji.
Thanks, Benji.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.